Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is sponsored by Smithy Ironware. Smithy has been a supporter of this show for so long, you might not realize how much their line of cookware has grown in the past couple of years. In addition to a range of cast iron skillets, including my beloved number 12 skillet, Smithy recently launched a new carbon steel skillet that is hand-forged by blacksmiths on the old Charleston Naval Base. And then there's the new Dutch oven, which is a thing of beauty. Featuring the only fully polished cast iron interior in the industry and a tight-fitting lid with a signature brass knob, it's perfect for all that braising and roasting. And if you like to get outdoors this time of year, a welcome addition to your campsite cooking. Check out that and the whole line of Smithy Ironware at smithy.com. That's Smithy with an EY.com. And remember that something as well made as a smithy is an heirloom for every day. Use it well, and you can use it for life. Somewhere South debuts tonight on PBS, the second television show from North Carolina chef Vivian Howard. If you don't know her, you should. She's a force in American culinary culture through her placemaking Kinston, North Carolina restaurant called Chef and the Farmer and its growing number of restaurant siblings, to her first series, A Chef's Life, a television show that will not only go down as an Emmy winner, but one of the best food shows in a generation. This interview was recorded before the current crisis halted the country, so the landscape for her businesses is shifting under her feet like it is for every one of my guests. Still, Vivian's work aims to teach us how we are more together at the table than we often realize, and that's something we're going to need to remember now more than ever. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Vivian.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. I'm sorry I didn't bring extra earphones for you.
I'm so, one of the reasons I agree to do podcasts is because I love wearing those earphones, and you're the only one wearing them.
Well, but you're holding the chopstick microphone like a champ, so that's good. It's a good level.
I'm going to switch hands.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Like I made the first few people, not made, but they held it just this, and I was like, and actually somebody was like, my hand's cramping. You don't realize it, and so the chopsticks make it feel a little more comfortable.
I appreciate your scrappiness.
Yeah, it's also
Did you learn this
thing.
technique from someone or?
Nope. I just know I have to. I am the host, producer, writer, founder, and editor of this show, and I have to carry the go bag through many, many airports, and any weight that I can remove is very helpful.
I love it. Oh, it works.
Well, we are sitting in the Renaissance Charleston Historic Hotel today because this is where you are developing 2 restaurants outside of North Carolina for the first time. And they're going to be right here in this hotel, correct?
Yes, that's correct. they've just done the demolition of the space, and it's made it real for me.
So, the Chef and the Farmer and of course the television show, and you have a book, and now you have another television show, and then you have all of these other restaurants and all of these other projects. But the Chef and the Farmer is really what started it all. Can you tell us a little bit how these restaurants outside of North Carolina are going to evolve your cooking style?
Well, I think my cooking style evolves as I just, evolve as a human being, and as I learn more, and as I, hone my craft. What I think these restaurants in Charleston will do for me personally. I opened Chef and the Farmer like close to 14 years ago in a very economically depressed town. And had I known then what I know now, or what I knew like 2 years in, like I'm not sure that I would have done that.
But of course, you created an Eastern North Carolina food scene anchor.
Yeah,
because that's really what Chef and the Farmer has become, a destination restaurant.
Absolutely. And, the economy of Eastern North Carolina continues to be pretty fragile. Agriculture is uncertain there. The textile business is gone. And really, I am the number one tourist attraction in that region of the state.
No pressure. I know you love that kind of thing.
And so, it's both a gift and a burden.
Yes.
A burden I'm willing to carry, but I have a family. And the opportunity to open a restaurant in a city with a thriving dining scene, a city I love being in, and a city that's growing without my celebrity pushing it, was really one that I could not ignore as a sane human being.
Right.
I'm not sure that my cooking style will evolve as a result of being here, but, it will certainly, reshape the way that my business works, and it's afforded us some opportunities to, put people in place to monitor quality across my restaurants. And, so I'm super excited to be here, and what I'm most excited about is that, I think when you think of Charleston, quintessential restaurants, most of them cook the food of this port city. It's very low country driven, shrimp and grits, that kind of thing. And I'm excited because I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to be cooking the food of the rural agricultural South, much like I do in Kinston, but, I'm opening a restaurant with 14 years of experience under my belt.
Right.
I mean, I was 26, 27 when we opened Chef and the Farmer, and had never run a kitchen, much less open a restaurant. So the mistakes we made and, the challenges we met, will hopefully be different this time.
Right.
And I'm just grateful to have this kind of opportunity.
What keeps you coming back to the restaurant kitchen? Because at this stage, you don't necessarily need to that often, because you have other projects and you have a voice that is sharing, the great things in the South. So what keeps you coming back to, let's put this on the menu, that kind of thing?
Well, that is, kind of a question I ask myself, because I think we get into the restaurant business often as young people, and we think that it's going to be something that we don't do for very long.
Right.
And then we keep doing it, and then we're like, oh, I want to do something else. And then we do something else, and then we feel this pull back to the kitchen and to our people and to the camaraderie that exists in a kitchen. And the excitement of kind of making something and, serving it and seeing people enjoy it or not enjoy it. And then the opportunity to redo it the next day.
Right.
In a way that is more successful. I mean, I love the fact that, in a restaurant setting, you can constantly improve and evolve, and you don't have to have a conference call about it.
Right.
You don't have to have, multiple meetings about it. You can just address it. It's very kind of instant gratification as someone who's a creative.
And there's an activity arc.
Yes.
There's that moment of the night. I knew that I was supposed to be in restaurants for some reason, and I didn't know what that was way back when I was waiting tables. And I would leave it for a while, and then it would come in, and it would be before the sound system was on for the night. And I could hear the servers setting tables and kind of talking to each other, and kind of that clinking and that sound. And then you have an arc of activity, and it builds, right?
I mean, I have chills just you talking about that, because it is such a sensory experience as someone who works in it. And then you go through the, swinging door into the kitchen, and the sound completely changes, and the culture changes, and the intensity changes.
And the heat.
And then you go out the other side of the door, and then it's performance.
It really is, yes.
And, I started as a server. In college, I was a server at Rockola Cafe, which was a chain of 50s style.
No way. That's right. I remember hearing that.
50s style burger joints.
I can't believe Rockola. It's where I went on my dates in high school. Right?
I started at Rockola, then I went to Sticky Fingers here in Charleston, and then the Raleigh Ale House after that. And so, it's something that becomes a part of who you are.
Right. My first job was as a hostess at Red Robin.
Oh. And, I think it's difficult because, I'm much older now. I just turned 42 2 days ago, and I don't.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to work the line every night. But I want to be, a part of, making the restaurant great, and the service of it, and the hospitality aspect of it, and the just creative pursuit of it. I've written 2 cookbooks now, and made 2 television shows, and they've been, hugely enjoyable for me, but that process, to see the results of it, is so long.
Right.
And the restaurant work is kind of like the same process, but much faster.
Right.
And so you can put in the work, make the thing, serve it, see how it lands, all in a matter of a day versus, sometimes years.
Years. Yeah. Speaking of years, we were talking, we're talking about how long it's been for this new show. So we want to hear the name of the new show in your voice, not mine. So will you tell us what it is?
So the new show is called Somewhere South, and it starts March 27th, and it will air for 6 weeks, 1-hour episodes on PBS all across the country at the same time, which is a huge feat in the PBS world, at 9 p.m.
And PBS food, to me, is the food. That's the Julia Child, the Jacques Pepin, even now Marcus. And so to have 2 shows on there, and to have a great just anchor in that space. But did you know when the other show was ending that another show was going to be happening?
Well, what had happened was
Thank you, Tiffany.
At the beginning of the last season of A Chef's Life, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. After the second season of A Chef's Life, I said to myself, I'll do this one more season, and then hopefully I would have earned the opportunity to do something else in the media space that is not about my personal life and does not document all of my personal and professional triumphs and tragedies on camera. I know people enjoy that. I know they love watching it, but it's, when you watched Christmas at my house, it was actually Christmas.
Yeah. It's a little invasive, right?
Yeah. And I was on board
in the
with
best
it. It was,
way,
in so many ways, it was my idea, but, I had reached the end of the road with it.
Right.
I also felt as if we had really exhausted the story. My work had evolved, and I wasn't cooking on the line every night at Chef and the Farmer anymore. I was very much involved there, but I felt like I was acting. And so I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, and this is what I want to do, and y'all can all get on the train or get off. And I'm ashamed at how I handled it, because it destroyed a relationship in my life. Not just that, but, I could have handled it differently, but I had really reached the end of it, and I had a desire to do something else.
Right. And when something's pushing you and you know that like it's done and you've been trying to be there for the other people, lots of times that expiration date pushes us to break in ways that we wish that it didn't.
It was truthfully long expired.
Right, right.
And so I had, gone past my expiration date, and then I had a temper tantrum. But that was followed with like, this is really what I want to do.
Right.
And let me pitch this to PBS. And so I wanted to expand the definition of it means to be Southern and what Southern food looks like.
Right.
Because I felt like, while we were portraying a very accurate depiction of what Eastern North Carolina food looked like, in a lot of ways that became the definition of Southern food.
Well, and I mean, that is really why I have the Southern Fork, and I run around and talk to all these people, because I define the South in a very broad way. But if you just talk to somebody, I don't even like to say Southern cuisine, because that says one type of thing.
Well, that currently means one thing.
It does, but it's regional cuisine. And North Carolina cuisine is, 5 or 6 different kind of regionalities. So, as you dealt with that second show, I started to see, as I heard things were happening, that you were really evolving. This was the next step for you, but you're working with people that are inspiring to you. I just mentioned to you off air that you had one of my favorite essays in the Sarah Franklin edited book of essays about Edna Lewis. And you mentioned how inspiring it was to read her book and then realize you had a voice. Can you give me an example of a place or something that you can share with us from the upcoming show that you knew that you were kind of doing that and at the same time being inspired as well? Because you get to give a voice, but that isn't a one-way street. It's not like, hey, I'm going to grant you space to do this. You're actually getting something back that will shift and change you creatively.
Well, so often in this show, like I'm never the expert. Every episode of A Chef's Life was about an ingredient. And every episode of Somewhere South is about a dish that every culture shares. So like I'm of the mindset, and I'm not the only one, that there's really only like 20 dishes in the whole world.
Right.
Every culture has a dumpling. Every culture has a barbecue. Every culture has a way of cooking greens. And so
Some kind of bread.
Right. A flatbread or, you know. And so I wanted to be, a part of showing us how we all share these same traditions, no matter where we come from.
Right.
So the second episode of Somewhere South is on porridge. And, we don't often think of the word porridge, but, my porridge growing up was grits, specifically instant grits.
Right. Quaker instant grits, butter flavor.
Yes, but there's also oatmeal, congee, mamaliga, like all kinds of like grains that are cooked to the point that they absorb liquid and become, humble, comforting food. And so we come to Charleston to participate in the Food and Wine Festival here and are exploring the subject of porridge. And we spend a lot of time with Chef B.J. Dennis, and I'm
who Southern Fork listeners know. He's been on the show.
Yes, and he takes us out to Edisto, where we learn from a woman named Miss Emily Meggetts, who's kind of like the matriarch of Geechee Gullah cooking on the island, and we learn about rice porridge and grit porridge, and also about the economy of Charleston and how it came to be. So I always learned that slavery was about labor. It was about bringing enslaved Africans to the American South in order to build through strength and labor, the infrastructure that was the South. But in the case of many enslaved Africans, I learned from BJ that we colonists selected West Africans for their knowledge.
Right.
And their skill, not for labor.
Right.
But their
specifically rice knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of growing and cultivating rice. And it was on that knowledge that the economy and the wealth of Charleston and therefore much of the American South was built. And I consider myself a student and a history buff.
Right.
And this was not a piece of history, a nuance of history that had ever been pointed out to me. And so, shooting that episode and talking to BJ and hearing his perspective and the actual history of it was just like a huge moment for me.
Right.
And we sit down at Hannibal's, which is a historic place here,
Right.
a soul food restaurant in downtown Charleston. And I sit down with Dr. Jessica Harris, Tony Tipton Martin, BJ Dennis, Ricky Moore, Mashama Bailey,
That's
Ashley
a good
Ashanti,
table.
yes, and me, to talk about soul food. And it is so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because I'm this white woman.
I get it, because I'm a white woman too, wanting to have those conversations, but it puts a lump right here in your throat.
Because
right?
you know what your role in it is.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know what is perceived and my intentions are good, and my intentions are to set the example, to have more conversations like this.
Right.
But it's on camera. And so, watching it was
right.
hard for everyone. And we question whether or not it should be a part of the show. But it is. And it's one of the things that I think I'm really proud of, because we've shown that, conversations don't always have to be easy, and they don't have to be with just people who look like you. And we can't just talk about it among ourselves if it matters.
Right. I love that. Well, we're really excited to see it. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you feel good about it, because that's the important thing. As a creative, you feel like, okay, I did what I could right here, and now I can go to the next thing.
It was a long road, I will tell you that.
That involved trying to wear the same outfits that you wore 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's taken. We started this like 3 years ago, and so you'll see it, and my hair is like chin length in one scene, and then in the next scene it's below my shoulders, and it's just the miracle of TV.
Hey, the cookies get baked, the hair grows faster. I mean, it's all of those things. So we're here right at the cusp of a new show for you, and also a huge double restaurant construction and opening project. You are one ambitious and busy and really talented person. So I can't imagine how you're going to answer this. What makes you hungry? What keeps you going?
Hungry for food?
Well, however you want to answer it. If you want to answer it like it's in the kitchen, or.
So I don't know that I get so much energy and drive from like creative pursuits, and they can be little, like, I do this tip thing on my Instagram,
It's
and I
great.
got so much joy out of doing that, and just like the creative aspect of it.
Right.
And
just for a moment, let me just tell Southern Fork listeners, you need to watch these tips. That I watch them all the time, and it's on your Insta stories. Yes.
And they're a finalist for an IACP award, believe it or not.
Well, just you make an Insta story and you win an award. That's nice, Vivian.
No.
So good. So good for you.
Well, I generally don't highlight awards because
I
I
know.
think that
But that's a good thing.
but they're out of the box. And that's why I was proud that they were recognized,
Right.
because I think it shows you don't have to have a huge platform behind you to do something distinct that resonates. Because I
love
just
that.
did these on my own with my phone.
Right. You didn't have your team. It's really you looking into your phone. Yeah. And talking.
And I take the pictures myself, and they're not good.
Right.
But that's okay.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but you said a creative
creative pursuits, like something new that is a challenge. Like the in-room dining menu here at the hotel has been so much fun. At first I was like, oh God, how do I even approach that? But then I started thinking about what would I like if,
Right. If I am so tired, I just want to eat in my room in Charleston, but I still am in Charleston. I want to have something good.
right. And what can we do as a kitchen that may actually be closed?
Oh, right.
And have that, be the same quality and consistency no matter what time of day. So, just like little creative challenges like that, I'm really inspired by. And, I find that when I have idle hands and an idle mind, I get depressed.
Me too.
And so I, am constantly pushing in that way.
It has to come out some way.
So I'm hungry for that.
I love that. That's a really perfect answer. It's probably going to be award winning.
I just hit my tooth on my chopstick.
All right. What is one aspect of your job that really meshes like a puzzle piece with an aspect of your personality?
Well, I love to make people laugh. And so I found, like, as soon as I started working in a kitchen, that was one of my powers. I was never like the best cook. Like, I was a good cook, but I was really messy. And so I found that if I could make people laugh and make the experience of being in the kitchen more enjoyable for everyone, that pushed me along as a cook.
Oh, yeah.
And I've used that, throughout my career, whether it be like in boardrooms with, the owners of these hotels, or in a meeting with PBS, pitching this show, or with someone who's incredibly uncomfortable being on camera, making them feel comfortable through, like shared humor. That has really been something that, it's the thing that I go to. I don't think about going to it. It's just like kind of my nervous tick.
Right. Well, it's a good one. Okay. What keeps you up at night?
This is going to be very dark, but my mortality. Just, I have 2 children, and so many people depend on me. And, I just often think about, I'm knocking on some form of wood right now. I don't know if you can hear that, but, I'm healthy, as we know, but, if suddenly I were not, or what would happen to all those people and to my
Right.
family? Because in so many respects, I am the product. And in a lot of businesses, if the leader goes away, the businesses carry on. And that.
I understand that, but that's a heavy weight to be there. But I hear more and more from the culinary makers that I speak with who have staffs and groups in different restaurants that is the thing. It is the weight of the responsibility of people, and caring about people is very vulnerable, and it makes you scared. and knowing that they depend on you.
Yeah. It's a gift and a burden and
just the life, human, universal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we're going to switch gears. No more death row meal because I've decided, that I don't believe in death penalty. And why am I talking about this? And it's weird.
And I've gotten asked that question so many times, and I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy any meal if I'm about,
so
if
many
I know
people.
that I'm
yes. And how I feel about the prison system, every time I'm asking it in the past year or two, I'm like, I feel weird about this. So I'm going with a magic picnic basket. Okay.
I like that.
Okay. So magic picnic basket, I have one. I can also time travel. I can conscript any chef. I can source what you want, and I can cook a little bit, mainly baked chicken and pound cake.
Does that have to be in my picnic basket?
No,
okay.
It is not required. In fact, I will start being nervous if you say it is. So, I would love to bring it to you and present to you your magic meal. What would be in that picnic basket?
Lord, that's hard. So I think it's really more about where I am and who I'm with.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I have a really strong, fun group of coworkers and friends and family and so much about that. So I would be at Bald Head Island in
Love it.
North
Yes,
Carolina,
in
which
North
is
Carolina.
like this little island that you have to take a passenger ferry to. There's no cars or anything.
And there's a lighthouse.
Yes, there's the oldest lighthouse in North Carolina, and it's close. It's close to where I live, but it feels very far away. So I'd be there. I'd have my my children, my husband, my sisters, my parents. Although my parents would leave once we started drinking. And my friends Baxter and Ryan and Charlotte and Andrea, and I mean I grew up in a family where friendship was not important. I don't know why. I think it's a country rural thing.
Yeah, I just was with my family, and friends were kind of over there.
Yeah, my parents always said, you can have friends, but only your family will, be with you. But I don't believe that.
Right.
Because my friendships are so important to me, and I want them to be important to my children, and for them to understand how important friendships can be. So I would have my family and my friends and force them all to be there together on a big blanket. And I would have everybody bring something so that I don't carry
It's a massive potluck.
Yes. And I would bring some salt and vinegar potato chips and a French onion dip, probably.
You'd be like, I don't feel like cooking.
But I love those two things.
Those are great. Do you eat them together?
I do.
Okay, because I'm a wavy Lay's person.
I like a wavy
French.
lay.
It makes it a little thicker.
Yes, and
it's great for the French onion
it's
dip.
like gnocchi in that it picks up the sauce.
Exactly.
It's American gnocchi.
But it's not as... And I grew up in Charlotte, and so Lay's are based in Charlotte.
Oh.
And so the original yellow bag of the Lay's is the ultimate, but it does not work for the French onion dip. So
They break.
So you got to use the wavy Lay's. But I'm a huge fan of the salt and vinegar chips too. So I'm open to trying new experiences with that. So
Well, you could bring
cool.
some wavy lays and we can,
We'll
mix them up.
Make it look festive.
Put some Frito scoops in there too.
Yeah, but that's not a gnocchi.
No.
That's just like, hey, I'm going to eat all this.
Yes.
Well, on that high level note, ladies and gentlemen, if people want to learn more about Vivian Howard and her new show and new restaurants, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have links there to all of the restaurants, as well as, just in case you don't know what this woman looks like, a picture or two and some dishes. Also, that books from the show tab on the website is becoming more and more important as I add books from it. And I just bought Deep Run Roots and forgot to bring it and did not even remember that I bought it and I was going to have you sign it.
Well, dang.
That sucks. Well, hopefully next time. It's heavy. It's big. It's thick.
Yeah,
it's shot by
4.7 pounds, the same as my daughter weighed when she was born.
Wow. She was little.
She was a twin. So.
Oh, okay. That's
she
right.
is a twin.
She is a twin. Well, and if you like what you hear, obviously, there's lots more coming this season and lots to dive into the archives. Please subscribe. So it's just waiting for you there every Friday. You never know whose voice is going to pop up, even famous Vivian Howard's voice from PBS. So thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for your chopstick microphone. I'm a big fan. I'm going to be sharing this technique far and wide.
Excellent. I'm going to #TM. Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. Man, I've got a lot to say today, but I'm going to really try to focus because I know that we all are reeling. We're in shock as a country, as different industries. Really, this crisis is coming to bear individually for each one of us. But I want to focus on something that Vivian mentioned in the interview that you just listened to, and that is the weight of responsibility that is also a gift of responsibility when you have a lot of employees counting on you. And that feeling that you have of really wanting to do the right thing for those people that you care about and that actually you are active in their support, their financial support, but also their livelihood. What I'm seeing is that play out across the restaurant and bar and hospitality industry. As a country, we don't have a cohesive plan for how long or how we're going to deal with this pandemic. And I'm not being political. Can be, but I'm not going to be. I'm actually just being factual here because so what we're really watching is the states approach this in their own ways, and we're watching municipalities even approach this in their own ways instead of us all approaching it the same way. And so the restaurants, the chef owners, the business folks, the office managers, the people involved in restaurants and bars and hospitality, they have been told that what they do for a living is a danger, and they've taken that responsibility to heart. So they have closed dining rooms, closed bars, changing reservations for hotels. People are canceling tours. All of those things, of course, have already happened. I am also seeing restaurants still try to continue on in some manner or way because they are thinking about the employees and how to support them. Some people are creating relief kitchens for F&B workers who are out of work. Some restaurants are sending their employees home with all the food from the walk-in. Other restaurants are maintaining a skeleton crew and trying to sell what they have just to keep some money coming in the door and hopefully some people employed. Others are asking for money directly in GoFundMe or asking you to buy gift cards that you can redeem later. And still others are creating new to-go menus and delivery options in restaurants that really weren't suited for that. And that is because each owner and group of management is sitting there and thinking, how are we going to take care of our employees? So that responsibility is something, that feeling that Vivian Howard is talking about in this interview is something that you can watch in real time. We are all having to make our individual decisions here on a daily basis on what we feel is safe. And that is so difficult for all of us, but but it's also difficult for those business owners in the service industry that are trying to figure out what to do with employees. That's what I got today. It ain't pretty, but it's what's on my heart. And I just want to ask for empathy and patience with these restaurant and bar owners and chefs as they try to navigate this world that we are in now. We all need a little bit of empathy for each other and no hoarding. All right, I'll be right here next week in my miniature walk-in closet talking to you again. I might walk outside the closet into my kitchen and cook a few things, but I'll be right back here for you next week. You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?